Yep, look at it go. Holy cow.
June 20th, 2025. A single night in rural North Dakota.
Storm Chaser Brandon Comet, we got a big-time tornado back here. Big-time tornado.
A single tornado.
Yep, yeah, you can see it. You see the rope out. Look at how...
Yeah, you can see it.
Many lives lost. But this wasn't just another storm. This was the first EF5 tornado to strike American soil in over a decade. To understand what happened that night, we need to rewind, because June 20th, 2025 wasn't just any date. It marked exactly 68 years since another monster tornado tore through North Dakota. On June 20th, 1957, an F5 tornado devastated Fargo.
A hungry sky closes in on Fargo, North Dakota. A tornado about to hit.
Claiming 10 lives and changing tornado signs forever. That storm became the foundation of the Fujita Scale itself. Dr. Ted Fujita used the Fargo tornado to create the ratings we still use today. Terms like wall cloud came from his analysis of that disaster. 68 years to the day. History doesn't often rhyme this clearly. 2025 had been an active year for severe weather. The previous year saw over 2,100 tornadoes across the United States, the highest annual total on record dating back to 1950. June brought no relief. A powerful weather system was building over the northern plains, and meteorologists knew it. On June 15th, the Storm Prediction Center identified concerning patterns. A mid-level ridge was moving into the upper Mississippi River Valley. Beneath it, an unstable and moist air mass stretched from the Missouri River Valley into the western Great Lakes. By June 20th, conditions were ripe for severe weather. That Friday evening started like any other in Enderlin, a small town in southeastern North Dakota, about 40 miles southwest of Fargo. Families were settling in for the night. Fields of crops swayed in the summer breeze. Nothing seemed unusual. But 190 miles to the west, the sky was already stirring. At 1:30 in the afternoon, Tornado Watch number 341 was issued. The atmosphere was primed. Deep layer wind shear, extreme instability, a nearby frontal boundary creating the kind of storm relative helicity that breeds violent tornadoes. By early evening, supercells began developing across eastern North Dakota around the Jamestown area. At first, these storms were elevated, disconnected from the surface. But as the low-level jets strengthened, the storms became surface-based, more dangerous, more powerful. Before the Enderlin tornado even formed, other twisters were already touching down. An EF3 near Spiritwood. Two EF2s near Valley City and Fort Ransom.
I'm approaching from the south. I do not have any visual. It's still west. I don't know if it's moving south or moving at me. I can't tell.
All moving southeast, all converging on the same region. At 8:15 p.m., the Storm Prediction Center issued an update. The storms were entering a favorable environment. Tornadoes were expected, strong ones. Forecasters estimated peak winds of 120 to 150 miles per hour. They were wrong. The actual winds would far exceed even the most pessimistic predictions. Tornado Watch 448 covered 14 counties. Emergency managers activated protocols, but in rural North Dakota, options are limited. There are no basements in every home, no storm shelters on every street. When a tornado strikes at night in farm country, you shelter where you can and hope for the best. 11:02 p.m., the tornado touched down south of Enderlin.
Yep, I think there's a tornado there. It's actually pretty small.
It started small, EF0 intensity, but within minutes it began to grow.
Now that it's big enough.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
That last lightning bolt.
It is huge.
The funnel widened, the winds accelerated. As it moved northeast across County Road 55, it was already strengthening beyond anything forecasters had predicted. By 11:05, the tornado reached the ADM Edible Bean Specialties facility at the corner of 136th Avenue Southeast and County Road 136, EF2 intensity now. Large trees snapped like twigs, an outbuilding vanished. Then came rapid intensification. 11:08 p.m. The tornado crossed the CPKC Elbow Lake subdivision, southeast of Enderlin. A freight train sat on the tracks, stopped, waiting. In seconds, the tornado derailed multiple cars. An empty tanker car weighing 72,000 pounds was thrown 475 feet through the air. Fully loaded grain hopper cars, each weighing 286,000 pounds, were tipped over like toys. This was EF5 intensity. Winds exceeding 210 miles per hour. Some analysis suggests winds may have reached 266 miles per hour to achieve what happened to that train. For comparison, a Formula One car reaches these speeds at full throttle on a straightaway, but here there was no track, no driver, no control, just raw, terrifying power. The tornado continued northeast. A cell tower was blown over, cutting communication. Crops were shredded. The earth itself seemed to be torn apart. 11:15 p.m. About a mile east of Enderlin on Highway 46, Michael and Catherine Dane were in their home, both 73 years old. They had lived in this area their entire lives. When the warnings came, they did what they could. They sought shelter. They followed the protocols, but against an EF5 tornado, protocols aren't guarantees. The tornado struck their home with full force. The structure was completely destroyed. Michael and Catherine tragically lost their lives. North of their location, at a separate residence, 89-year-old Marcario Lucio faced the same monster. His home was also obliterated. He didn't survive. The tornado wasn't finished. It tore through farmland, destroying multiple farmhouses, where it obliterated an entire forest. Not damaged, obliterated. Trees weren't just knocked down, they were snapped to stumps. Others were torn completely from the ground, root balls and all. In some cases, the displaced trees traveled so far that investigators couldn't determine where they originally stood. The debarking was particularly telling. Trees showed a sandpapering effect, their bark stripped away by debris moving at incomprehensible speeds. This level of tree damage is seen only in the most extreme tornadoes. 11:21 p.m. Near the town of Alice, the tornado finally dissipated. 19 minutes, 12.10 miles. At its widest, over a mile across. 3 lives taken. Countless others changed forever. Storm chasers who had been documenting the outbreak were among the first to comprehend the scope of the disaster. Around 11:40 p.m., they found the Dane residence and discovered 2 deceased individuals. They immediately contacted the Enderlin Fire Department. Throughout the night, a massive search operation unfolded. The Enderlin and Alice Fire Departments, Cass County Sheriff's deputies, Castleton and Lisbon ambulance services, the North Dakota Highway Patrol, they conducted a grid search through the darkness, checking every structure, every location along the tornado's path. At a second home north of the Dane residence, deputies found Marcario Lucio. By dawn, on Saturday, June 21st, the full picture was emerging. At 7:30 a.m., Cass County Sheriff Jesse Jana held a press conference. 3 confirmed fatalities, extensive damage, a community in shock. Fire Chief John Anderson described the devastation. The damage area stretched approximately 3 miles wide and 6 miles long. In his 20 years as a volunteer firefighter, he had never seen anything like it. The National Weather Service deployed survey teams. Initial assessments rated the tornado as EF3, with peak winds of 160 miles per hour. It was clearly a significant tornado, but no one yet realized just how powerful it had been. Power was out for 37,000 people across North Dakota. The town of Enderlin itself hadn't been directly struck, but it lost electricity. Cell phone service was knocked out. Communication infrastructure was devastated. In the small town of Page, residents would be without power for days, unable even to heat water for bathing. On June 21st, Governor Kelly Armstrong declared a statewide disaster and activated the North Dakota Emergency Operations Plan. The recovery began immediately. Not because of government mandates, but because neighbors help neighbors in North Dakota. By June 24th, over 150 volunteers joined a joint cleanup operation. The Red Cross deployed disaster teams. The Northern Plains UAS test site sent drones to help residents locate personal items that had been scattered across miles. North Bank set up a relief fund. The Enderlin Fire Department coordinated cleanup efforts. The community showed what resilience looks like. On June 25th, Governor Armstrong toured the affected areas.
Governor Kelly Armstrong today toured some of the hardest hit areas.
His message, the recovery will take years.
He visited Tyler Pfaff, whose home had been destroyed. Pfaff recalled the moment his phone alert came through. You're in extreme danger. He took shelter in his bathroom as the tornado passed overhead. His roof was gone. His nearby buildings were destroyed. His Polaris Ranger was missing. Later found half a mile to the north, but he survived. Armstrong called the storms once-in-a-generation events. He noted that watching nature do this is terrible, but watching North Dakotans respond is heartening. In September, President Trump approved federal disaster relief through FEMA, but there was a problem. The 2025 federal government shutdown was ongoing. Disaster assistance couldn't be distributed.
We want to wean off of FEMA, and we want to bring it down to the state level.
The president says people can expect that transition after hurricane season. In the meantime,
we're going to give out less money. We're going to give it out direct.
Families who had lost everything couldn't access the federal aid that had been approved. They had to rely on local resources, volunteer organizations, and their own resilience. This administrative complication added another layer of difficulty to an already devastating situation. While other states face similar challenges with FEMA access, the timing for Enderlin couldn't have been worse. But the story wasn't over. Throughout the summer and into fall, scientists were conducting detailed analysis. The National Weather Service in Grand Forks worked with the Northern Tornadoes Project at Western University in Ontario, the Canadian Severe Storms Laboratory, and wind damage expert Timothy P. Marshall. They examined every aspect of the damage. The train cars became the key. The physics of what happened to that freight train told the story.
So they wanted to know what kind of wind would it take to do this kind of damage. I went ahead and did some calculations, and my calculations indicated that there were over 200-mile-an-hour winds to cause this kind of damage.
An empty tanker car weighing 36 tons thrown almost 500 feet. Fully loaded grain hoppers, each weighing 143 tons, tipped over. The forces required to achieve this were extraordinary. They analyzed the tree damage, the debarking patterns, the root ball displacements, the complete destruction of the forest along the Maple River. They surveyed the farmhouses, where foundations had been swept clean and no recognizable structure remained. On October 6, 2025, the National Weather Service made an announcement. The Enderlin tornado was being upgraded to EF5. Winds had exceeded 210 miles per hour. It was the first EF5 tornado in the United States since Moore, Oklahoma on May 20, 2013. A 12-year drought had ended. Tyler Thomas, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Grand Forks, noted the significance. It's now one of only 3 tornadoes officially rated F5 or EF5 in North Dakota history. Melinda Beerens, the meteorologist in charge, explained that in the last 12 years several strong tornadoes had come close to EF5 ratings, but there hadn't been damage indicators to support it. Sometimes, she said, it's hard to get tornadoes to hit something that reveals their true intensity. This tornado hit the right indicators. And the science was clear. The Enderlin tornado also became the deadliest tornado to strike North Dakota since 1978, when an F4 tornado killed 5 people in Elgin. It was the first June EF5 or F5 tornado in the United States since Chandler, Minnesota in 1992, a 33-year gap. Dr. Darrell Richardson, a climatologist at North Dakota State University, put the event in perspective. The 1957 Fargo tornado and a tornado in Waco, Texas, were the 2 principal tornadoes used to create the Fujita Scale. And now, exactly 68 years later, North Dakota had produced another tornado for the record books. The tornado took 3 lives. 3 people who woke up that Friday morning with no idea it would be their last day. 3 families forever changed, 3 empty chairs at tables where they once sat. But the tornado couldn't take away what those lives meant. It couldn't erase the community that rallied together. It couldn't stop 150 volunteers from showing up to help. The Enderlin tornado will be remembered for many reasons. As the first EF5 in 12 years, as the tornado that ended the longest EF5 drought in modern history, as proof that even with all our technology, all our warnings, all our preparations, nature still holds power beyond our control. For the storm chasers, who immediately reported what they found instead of just filming. For the first responders, who searched through the night. For the fire chief, who said it was the worst storm in his 20-year career but showed up anyway. For the volunteers, who traveled from across the region to help people they'd never met. For the governor, who visited personally to ask what was needed. For the community that refused to let a federal government shutdown stop their recovery. On June 20th, 1957, Dr. Ted Fujita came to Fargo after an F5 tornado and created the scale that would define tornado science. On June 20th, 2025, exactly 68 years later, another North Dakota tornado reminded us why that scale exists. To measure, to understand, to learn, to prepare, to save lives. The winds that night exceeded 210 miles per hour. They threw train cars. They obliterated forests. They took 3 lives. But they couldn't take human dignity. They couldn't take the bonds that hold communities together. Every storm eventually ends. What remains is how we respond, how we help, how we remember. The Enderlin tornado is now part of history, part of science, part of the ongoing effort to understand nature's most violent storms. The forensic analysis, the upgraded rating, the documentation, all of it adds to our knowledge. All of it helps us prepare for the next one. Because there will be a next one. There always is. But because of events like Enderlin, because of the analysis and study, because of the lessons learned, we get better at warning, better at sheltering, better at surviving. Take care of one another, in the darkness of the storm and in the light that follows. That's what Enderlin showed us. That's what North Dakota has always known. The tornado was on the ground for 19 minutes. The recovery will take years, but the spirit that drives it, the human resolve that refuses to be broken, that lasts forever.